Welcome to the first episode of the Alpha Nerd Podcast and Radio Hour. I am the host, Kyle, with my gamer tags as Zorius and Dr. Killshot. I'm here with my co-host for the evening, Andrew.
Hello.
He will be talking with me about video games, general media in that situations, upcoming games, gaming news, what we're excited about, so on and so forth. How are you doing today?
I'm doing all right. Feeling okay.
That's good. So, yesterday we had the Nintendo Direct.
That is right.
Anything that you've particularly liked for this so far?
I'm usually not super into first-party Nintendo games, but Xenoblade Chronicles 3 caught my eye.
Yeah, I was looking forward to that. I was going to say, I know you play that a lot. We both played a lot. We were very into it.
I played the second one a lot. I had some issues with the second one. It definitely felt like at some point that they had decided to make an MMO and then just completely reversed course, which is why you pick up approximately 4,000 fetch quests in that game that don't really do anything or have any writing behind them. In the slightest.
Yeah. I went through most of it. I stopped about halfway through, and I just allowed you to play it to let me know the rest of the story. There was some storyline parts I didn't like with the cat girl. That was kind of weird and sudden.
You have to have a cat girl.
Yeah, well,
it's required.
Yeah, well, duh.
Yeah. The storyline was okay. It was pretty stereotypical. The combat system was enjoyable, if a bit overwrought. I really think they did a great job, though, in the Golden Country DLC. Torna, the Golden Country?
Never got to play it.
It's actually a standalone DLC, and there's a very good reason for that. It's better. It's kind of better in, I don't want to say every way, but it is pretty much every way. They refined how combat worked a lot. They cleaned it up. It's pretty self-contained. You don't have nearly as many fetch quests. The quests you do have seem more important. And also, it's not 30 billion hours long of the same thing. And what are those little rabbit people?
Oh, what are they called?
The worst
Pontons
thing
or thing?
in reality are those things.
With their disjointed English?
Yeah, it's... Like, I get it. You need some kind of cute race because it's a fantasy game from a Japanese developer.
One had Ricky, and Ricky was awesome.
Okay, yeah, all right. They just overdid it for the second one. Yes, they did.
No.
100%. I will stand by my assessment.
You can stand by your assessment. I'll fight you for it.
You'd win.
Yes, I do.
You would definitely win.
That's why it's called Alpha Nerd.
But I wouldn't be wrong. Still.
No, you wouldn't.
No.
When I was looking through it, the Earthbound thing blew my mind. That was kind of sideways for me. I was like, Earthbound.
Have you ever played Earthbound?
No, I never played it. I've seen things that everyone's like it, but I tried it, couldn't get anywhere with it because I just was not in the right mindset. I got to be in the Bayonetta 3.
Oh,
yes.
Come on.
I am disappointed so far. Like, I want to play it because I've played the first one, got through part of the second one. I've never actually had time to sit down and play it.
You ever finished the second one?
No.
Oh, it's really good.
But
it doesn't make
character and aesthetic wise, Nintendo's really starting to do hard shifts
That's
on
Platinum Games.
Yeah, but still, but they're.
All right, so the Bayonetta IP, I believe, is owned by Nintendo now.
Yes.
But it's still developed by Platinum Games, who've done a ton of good work. I think some of the aesthetic choices you're seeing with Bayonetta 3 are potentially things that I can't quite address because they may be spoilers for Bayonetta 2, and I don't want to spoil anything for listeners that might just get into the series as a whole with 3 coming here.
It's been out for how many years? Come on now.
You know, I don't subscribe to that. Like, if...
But we can talk about the look of the character because I feel each game so far has had a really hard change. The first one had her classic with the ice cream cone hairdo, and then 2 had the mom cut.
I don't think that was a mom.
That's a mom cut. The short hair, that was your mom's 35-year-old best friend who was still single and didn't have kids and wanted to hang out with you all the time.
Okay, all right, yeah. Now when you say that, it's a mom cut.
Yes. So This one just it calls back to the first games,
And I'm telling you, there's a reason.
and I
for that.
just felt it was such a hard change. It was it threw me off hard. I was like, come on now.
I think, I mean, if you want to go down the rabbit hole of looking at the storylines of each, I do think there is a very specific reason they went with that aesthetic. Like I said, I don't want to just address that flat out because, those games didn't sell a ton.
No.
And
I think that's why Nintendo picked it up. It sold enough to attract Nintendo, but didn't sell enough for anyone to compete over it.
That's true. Plus, I mean, it was just a fun game. It was
Yes.
very good. Now that doesn't shift units necessarily, but it did a good job. I really liked 2. 2 took 1, and this is going to sound dumb, but it doubled it. It went from 1 to 2.
2. Duh. That's how numbers work.
But no, it really went over the top, and 1 was pretty over the top. 2 was just like, you know what? We're gonna make a story that really doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
But the first one didn't make sense either. It was really awful.
They don't. They really don't make any sense.
But you're not there for the story. You play it the second time or third time through for the story. You play it the first time for the sheer fun.
Play it for the story. You just don't do that. It's Bayonetta.
Yeah.
You play it because it's nonsense and it's enjoyable. It's a soap opera. It is a soap opera of a video game.
Fair enough.
I half expect half the scenes someone to be busted and be like, Bayonetta, it's your child.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. I'm my own mom from the future. I'm trying to think of other ones that came on there. Alive was one they're doing now. They're porting it over.
What's Alive?
It's a weird version of like Chrono Cross or Chrono Trigger. It takes place in different eras.
I thought they had the Chrono Cross remake on there.
Yeah, the Chrono Cross remake. This is like Chrono Trigger.
Oh, okay.
Chrono
I
Trigger.
really want to talk about the Chrono Cross remake or
Yeah.
remaster rather. It's
Yeah,
not a remake.
I'm all about that because I've never gotten to play it because it was one of the rare games for PS1 or PS2. Which was it? PS2? PS2.
I think it was.
PS1 was something else. There's a bunch of rare games, but I am almost positive it's 2. I think it is PS2. I think it was early days PS2.
This might be the first occurrence of you being wrong on the air. So,
Yeah, whatever.
dear listeners,
It won't be the first time.
make a note.
Definitely won't be the last. Give me a
Chrono
second.
Cross is a game I have a storied history with. It was one of my favorite games as a child, and I played so much of it. I logged a lot of time for a young child. Putting like 50 hours into a game felt like eternity.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
And
Because I did the same thing with Monster Rancher, Final Fantasy 7 and 8. I put hours in some games. I know what you mean.
So with Chrono Cross, it felt. I got to the very end of the game, and I had a third-party memory card. And
Womp womp.
you know exactly what happened.
Yeah.
I got.
That's what happened to Monster Rancher for me.
I got to the very end of the game.
Also, Final Fantasy 8. Final Fantasy 8 did that when I was at the end.
It was the only cost-effective choice, Kyle. You
Yeah.
had to buy a third-party memory.
No, you didn't.
Well, yeah. I mean, nobody put a gun to your head to do it, but
Yeah,
I mean, your parents were going to get you a third-party memory card. You didn't have a choice.
Yeah, well, I got what I got too. I had the turbo ones that you'd press the button and switch over to another memory card. Yeah.
So
They're
of course, for those listeners not following along there, my memory card corrupted. Third-party memory cards in that era of consoles were wildly prone to corrupting your saves. So I lost my entire save for Chrono Cross when I was at the very end of the game. It destroyed my morale. It made me go outside for the first time in ages, and I never finished it.
Yeah, outside's the devil. It's PlayStation 1. You're right. It's PlayStation 1.
I thought it was.
There was one that's like it. Is it like Clouds? I don't know. I have to look it up. There's one that looks almost exactly like it.
A lot of games looked exactly
Exactly
like
the same.
it. Yes. So that's one of my things. The remaster doesn't look like a remaster.
No, it looks like the same game except for slightly sharper images.
It looks like they were like, how do we make more money off that? Can we put like 10 hours of development time and release this? And it's really low. Like it reeks of just give me more money. Let's make this available, which is great. Nobody has to go and emulate it. Not that I am advertising emulation. Emulation is illegal, FYI. But you don't have to go and play it at a friend's house who has a PlayStation 1. For all
Yeah.
those people that have that still. Or it's going to be accessible to modern consoles, and that's great.
Yes.
It's just a very, very poor attempt at it.
Oh, well, I mean, there was a couple of them that were like that. There was quite a few games that they did really poor.
Square Enix has that kind of thing going.
Yeah, every time they... What? Final Fantasy VIII, the remake, and then the Ultra Redux Edition that was even...
Wasn't it just like upgraded models?
Yeah, they just gave the guys actual fingers instead of wedges of cheese for hands.
Oh, man, the classic cheese wedge hands.
Ugh.
Those days were fantastic.
So, I mean, there's so much like that I saw for that I was really interested in.
Did you play the Final Fantasy VII, not remake, the complete remake?
No, I don't have PS5.
Is that, no, that's for PS4.
I don't have PS4 either.
Wow.
Yeah.
You should get one.
I have an Xbox, and that works just as well.
How dare you?
Just not for that. No, I really wasn't in it because I just could tell as soon as they said, "Hey, we're making it a episodic game," I knew it was going to be a disaster.
It's kind of weird that it's episodic and it's like 6 years per episode.
Yeah,
that's.
It was a disaster in my opinion.
I mean, I've heard it's good.
Like some people say it's good, but some of those people are just holding on for the fact of they're Final Fantasy VII fans.
So I hate Final Fantasy VII.
Why do you hate Final Fantasy VII?
Your phone's going to be ringing off the hook over there.
Oh well, whatever. I'll just hang it up.
I never enjoyed it as a child. So here's the problem: I played Final Fantasy VIII before 7.
Did you like 8?
Yes, I like.
That's
8.
why.
Yeah.
And I'm at this point. It's a fact at this point because a lot of people say the first Final Fantasy game you play is always going to be your favorite. And guess which one was mine? 8.
7. Oh, okay. Yeah.
I liked 7 because it started a lot of tropes. It gave a lot of tropes. It did a lot of things that I felt were good.
I mean, it did, but I was just like, boy, this isn't Final Fantasy 7 or 8.
Yeah.
I was like, where's my collectible card game?
Yeah. Well, yeah. That was the best part of 8.
Yes, it was.
The GF system was the worst part of the game.
I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah, it was bad. I like 7 because there were just characters I really fell in love with. Like Barrett, I liked Barrett as a character.
He was great.
Yeah.
I liked 8 for none of the characters I can actually remember.
8 had some really odd characters.
Like Squall and Strife.
Yeah, Squall. Squall, the guy who's just mopey all the time.
Yeah.
He'd switch back and forth from angst and mopey. That was all he ever did. No, I liked the harpoon guy. I can't remember his name, but he was part of the Laguna missions.
Yeah.
He was just dude with a giant harpoon. Like, he just whipped harpoons at people.
Somebody went during his like character development at Square Enix was just like,
let's make a sailor guy with a harpoon.
Description: man with harpoon.
Yeah.
Personality: also man with harpoon. I'm trying to think what my least favorite Final Fantasy was. I mean, we're not counting the 13s series.
No, none of the 13s are just terrible. They're
they
god
were
awful.
pretty bad. I tried playing each and every one of them, and I just gave up after a while.
Because straight line,
12 was really good.
12,
Zodiac?
yeah. I never finished that.
Oh, you didn't? It's
I
really good.
got about a quarter of the way through, and I got to the part where, like, that's probably maybe, about a quarter of the way through when you...
Did you really?
When you go after the prison break and all that stuff, and you're like...
Oh, that's 10 minutes into the game.
It's longer than 10 minutes. Right after he's like, oh, I didn't kill the king. It was my evil twin half-brother.
Sorry, listeners, that's spoilers right there.
Yeah, well, the game is how many years old? If you haven't played it by now...
Once again, I don't subscribe to that. Like, I'm not... Spoilers is spoiler.
Yeah, whatever.
But 12 was really good. The central combat mechanics were fantastic. Like, the job grid, it replaced 10's awful sphere system.
Fair enough.
Awful sphere system. I liked the dress system from 10 too. I did not like the sphere system.
I know why.
How dare you? 10-2 was a masterpiece. Okay.
I think 10-2 was good. I couldn't get over it when I first started playing it because of all the really... It was just such an offset from the first one with all the bright flashiness.
It wasn't
and
intended to be that serious. Like,
yeah.
All the other Final Fantasy
and
games
I think,
are like, small child, save the world from this awful god from beyond reality.
Yeah,
and
somehow.
10 is like, use these dresses and beat people up.
Yeah, right?
And that was fun.
Yeah, and once I realized that, I started liking it more. But I didn't finish that one. I think the...
Do you finish games? Have you ever
Yes,
played the game?
I finished quite a few of them.
Are you sure?
Yeah, most of them I get to like 3/4 of the way, and then I just move on to other things in my life.
Is that how you finish games?
Yes.
You're just like, okay, I've seen enough.
Yes, I've seen enough.
I am finished. Thus, the game.
I think the very first Final Fantasy I ever actually finished would be 15.
Wow, really?
Yeah, like I got to the final boss fight in 8.
It's kind of impressive that you finished 15. 15's long. 15's a pretty long Final Fantasy game.
It really wasn't for me. I don't think it was really that long.
Okay, you clearly never screwed up driving the car around, which you can do. You just go the wrong way for a while and you just don't realize
I don't know. I set it on auto course a lot, and
that's fair.
then stopped every so often when something looked interesting.
All right.
But 15 is absolutely the first one I completed. Then I went back and finished 8. I finished 1.
The very first Final Fantasy.
Yeah, I think I finished that one just for the sake of it.
I played it a long time ago, but boy, I couldn't tell you anything about it. It definitely wasn't the Final Fantasy.
Yeah, no.
For those following along, that name is extremely
ironic.
It's nonsensical. Thank you.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of some of the other stuff that was announced. Splatoon, whoop-de-doo.
You don't like Splatoon?
No, I'm not saying it's a bad game, but it's not one I've been interested in.
All right, that's fair.
Like, lately I've been just really interested in the horror game angle. And I'm going to use this as a transition to talk about Choo Choo Charles, because you asked me about what that's about. And I feel like it's interesting enough that you would like it.
I feel like I should regret this decision.
So the whole concept is you have a train. A little train.
Is this the one where you're on an island?
Yes, and you have to use the train, and there's a giant killer spider train after you.
Yes.
And you have to talk to faceless people to get some parts and stuff here, and you got to travel and hunt down stuff and on a timer before it kills you.
Yes.
Yes, I am so about this game.
So to once again explain, you are on a weird island. You have a train. There is another train out in the wilderness that does not obey the tracks, has spider legs, and is apparently named Charles.
Choo Choo Charles.
Is that?
It's Choo Choo Charles.
Okay, that's his legal name.
Yeah, that's his legal name.
So Choo Choo Charles will find you, and he will eventually kill you. I think it's like kind of roguelike-ish, isn't it?
Yeah, the whole concept is as you're trying to avoid it and stealth around it and run from it as you use your little train to get to the other side of the island, you're eventually trying to build up your train enough to be able to combat him.
Okay, yeah, so you eventually will fight Choo Choo Charles, who I assume is just trying to hug you.
Yeah, okay. With spider legs.
You know, spiders can hug too. They just
it's just slightly scarier and terrifying.
Well, yeah.
But I was really excited for that. There's quite a few horror games. I'm
horror games.
Yeah, I know, but I am for some reason because I just like being scared. I like being scared. I'm very one of those people that jump and twitch at games, especially horror games. I get scared at Mario too when Bowser shows up. I start crying.
That is actually a horror game.
But
did you play Soma?
Soma, no, but I watched somebody play through it, and I loved it.
That's pretty fair. Soma is a game where you can watch it and get roughly the same experience.
Exactly, and I liked the whole concept of it. The concept of it was brilliant. It was really well written. The only part I could say I didn't like about the storyline was the weird twist thing right before the end, where they just took a real hey, finish up this while you're at it.
For everyone listening, Soma is a horror game from the company that made it's Frictional Games. I believe. They made the Amnesia series of horror games.
Yeah, your favorite.
No,
I remember that.
Definitely not.
You loved playing it. I loved watching you play because you were just as bad as I was.
I played like one of them.
Yeah, you played the first one. I'm talking about we were there.
Terrified. But anyways, Soma is a game about a gentleman lost at the bottom of the ocean in a weird, strange research facility with crazy people all around him, crazy biomechanical people all around him, and he doesn't know why he's there. He wakes up suddenly down there, and you have
after an experimental surgery.
Correct. After an well, it's not a surgery, but an experimental procedure. Let's go with procedure.
Yeah, let's use procedure. That's a good one.
After an experimental procedure, he wakes up at the bottom of the ocean in a strange science facility with crazed machines and biomechanical growths everywhere.
What about? Is this like 100 years in the future or something like that?
Spoil that.
That's at the very beginning of the thing.
All right, technically that is in the very beginning. So in the first 10 minutes, you find out it's approximately, I think maybe 100 years in the future.
Yes.
And you have to travel through this underwater realm and figure out why you're there. And it asks a lot of questions about who are you as a person and an entity.
What's it mean to be alive?
Correct. Yeah, I think that's its actual tag.
Yeah, that's exactly. The other one, and this one has nothing to do with the Nintendo presentation yesterday.
Great segue.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah. I'm the best at this.
Yeah.
You pointed it out to me, and it got me super excited that I almost left work early for it.
Oh, no.
Was the Wolf Among Us 2.
Oh, okay. Ooh.
Oh.
Yes, so for everyone listening, Wolf Among Us is a game Kyle does not shut up about. He has actually asked me almost every time I've ever seen him, and I do know Kyle outside of this radio show, that he asks me almost every time, have you played Wolf Among Us? He does not remember my answer because he is too excited to ask if I have experienced this game.
Out of all the Telltale games, it's the only one I've truly loved. I liked not Left 4 Dead.
That was definitely not a Telltale game.
The Walking Dead. I love The Walking Dead. For everyone that doesn't know what Telltale Games is, they're a gaming company that specifically made story-driven, almost point-and-click style games where it was quick decisions and then your choices changed the story around you. It was all very story-based instead of gameplay-based.
It was the first game to really do that point-and-click choice-based game where it really shifted the story, significantly.
Yes.
You had it became a kind of a stereotype, but you had the little prompt in the corner that said, so-and-so will remember your decision.
Yes.
And they really did. Most of the decisions in the game were pretty huge. That started with the original Walking Dead game.
Yes.
And that one was really good.
And the one I feel they really hit it out of the park was The Wolf Among Us, which it was based off all the early centuries fairy tales actually existing, and then they left their lands to come to actual Earth in the real world and live among us in their own section of town. And the person that was chosen,
Fabletown, wasn't it?
Yeah, Fabletown, in their own section of New York City, and the person that was in charge of them as the sheriff and the one that dealt with all the problems was Big B, also known as the Big Bad Wolf. And the whole game is about him dealing with the society of the fairy tale creatures and how they have to live under scrutiny and try to hide who they are, and if they're not, they get shipped off to more or less a boot camp.
So I will point out that The Wolf Among Us is actually based on a comic book.
Yeah,
it is based on a comic book. The name escapes me. I want to say Fables.
I think it's Fables. I think it's Fables.
It was a really well done mystery Telltale game. Now, I will point out, Telltale Games actually collapsed about 3 years ago.
Yeah,
and
made me cry.
Yeah, they completely shut down. I guess they went broke, and they fired everybody. Somebody bought the studio and kind of resuscitated it. I don't really know what the status is currently, like if they hired all the previous employees, but it appears that they're just doing the same games.
Yeah, they just picked up, and I didn't even hear no announcements about it. I was looking for news on it, and all of a sudden you're like, hey, here's a trailer.
Yeah, because I really thought you would have told me about that.
Oh, yeah.
I was sitting there. As soon as I saw that trailer hit the internet, I'm like, Kyle's going to just come down on me with this.
Yeah, well, you came down on me on it. So...
It looks good. That was so in the trailer. I greatly appreciated that was Dorothy, the Tin Man, and the Scarecrow.
Yeah, and the first question I had, and I showed it to my buddy, and he was like, "Where's the lion?"
Yeah, where's the lion? Also, where's Toto?
Yeah. So, all right, we are going to take a couple-minute break to run our ads for the radio station. We will be back. Podcast today, where we're going to talk about games that we've recently played or completed. Anything that you have recently played or completed, Andrew?
I greatly appreciate you saying recently completed, because that knocks you out of the running for about 50% of this.
Yeah, 50% of games I play. Yeah.
I have played quite a few games recently and completed them.
Aren't you just special?
I am. And one I would like to talk about is The Forgotten City. Have you heard of that game? The Forgotten City?
No, I have not.
Okay. So it actually started life out as a mod, I think for Skyrim. And it's basically, the gist of the game is it's a first-person mystery game with a little bit of combat. The combat is not good. Let's kind of skip past the combat. But you wake up on a riverbank. A mysterious woman has rescued you. She tells you to go investigate some ruins and chase after a man who entered there earlier. You travel into these ruins and find that you've been an ancient Roman city full of perfect gold statues of people, as if it was a person turned into gold. These are not spoilers. This is the first 5 minutes of this game.
Yeah. I'm just looking at you because you're very...
I'm enthused.
Yes,
this
you
game
are.
Was good.
And you're very, like, you're speaking with your hands.
I
and
am.
your chin's all up nice. And
I'm
you're
very,
about this.
yeah,
and
I'm
listening to
very
this
about
with
this.
great enthusiasm.
So you travel further in, and you find a temple to a goddess you don't know, and you're sucked back in time to the city before everyone became golden statues. And you are told that you are in an ancient Roman city, and that on this day, someone is going to violate something called the Golden Rule. A god of unknown origin has cursed the city such that any crime that is committed instantly brings doom upon everyone there. They all will be killed or they will be turned to gold. And you are charged with identifying who is going to break the Golden Rule and stopping it. But there's a lot of other questions in this game, like who made the Golden Rule? Why does the Golden Rule only apply to certain crimes, not other ones that you would assume would also break it? And et cetera and et cetera. You are in a...
Good storytelling.
Yeah,
Etc.,
exactly,
etc.
You know, everybody uses et cetera.
That's like, I can't wait to write a book. And then he did this, etc.,
Yeah, you
etc.
write one sentence, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
So it's a fully functional city with a time system, and there's about 20 or 30 NPCs on there, and they go about their day. They have their own storylines. You got to go talk to them, figure out what's going on. You get kind of side quests, air quotes, from them, but your journal doesn't really record a lot of information. So it's a game where you got to kind of recall things.
Oh, that's going to be
It's
fun.
basically like Roman catch the person who's going to commit a sin Groundhog Day.
That's awesome.
It is. It's really good. It's not a particularly long game, but it's very well done. I encountered absolutely no bugs while playing it. It has 4 endings, and the best part about the 4 endings, you're told it has 4 endings, by the way.
Okay.
The best part about the 4 endings is there is one ending that is called the canon ending, and if you get all the other 3 endings, which are considered not canon, they are not the real ending, but they do end the game, you have no idea what's coming in that 4th ending. That's all I'm going to say about it. The other 3 endings do not spoil a single thing. It is a great game. It is a wonderful mystery game. It's a brain teaser. It's very well written and very well done.
Nice. Something I recently finished, because as you said, they're making fun of me for never finishing games.
It's true. You don't finish games.
Yes, I do. Just very weird ones at times, and very sporadically. I recently finished Mega Man Battle Network.
Battle Network? What? Which one was that? Was that
For the Game Boy Advanced. It was the very first Mega Man game for the Game Boy Advanced. It was...
Was Battle Network the one where it's like Pokemon-esque?
I don't know if it's Pokemon-esque. It felt that way. It was very RPG. It was like a tactical shooter RPG.
A tactical shooter?
Like attack. Yeah, it was weird. It was
like a tactics battle game.
Like a tactic,
XCOM
but it was also like a shooter base. Like you had to move in real time. You had to shoot at specific angles and stuff to get the damage through.
Oh, okay.
It was very interesting. It shook up the whole Mega Man franchise. It actually created a very, very popular game series. Like it was
Battle Network?
Battle
Network series?
the series. Yeah, it got 6 games out of it.
So for those of you at home, Kyle is not a Mega Man fan. He just has a ton of Mega Man like Funko Pops, a Mega Man mouse pad.
Nope, hate it. Stupid.
Yeah,
stupid.
I think he actually goes to sleep in Mega Man pajamas.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not
the man
yet.
says yet.
Yet. So the concept of it was, instead of just being its standard side scroller, regular old platformer from the original Mega Man's and Mega Man X, this one took more of an RPG role. And they created a system where you actually had to move in real time, shoot in real time, but while you're doing that, you could also manage a deck of chips. Instead of cards, they used chips, like computer chips, and it was really interesting.
Do you really think of poker chips?
Yeah, right?
I was really thinking of poker chips.
So it changes the whole universe from Mega Man being a robot that defended humanity to Mega Man being a computer program, and everyone's got like their own.
Like Mega Man.exe.
Yes, that's exactly what it is. That's part of So they changed Mega Man from that to a computer program, and everything was based on the internet. Everything ran off the internet. Cars, lights, water.
What year was this game?
When it came out?
Yeah.
Like 2004?
Oh, those halcyon days.
Yeah.
Thinking of the internet.
Yeah, like everything. Like somehow your oven runs off the internet.
Wait, yours doesn't?
Nope.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no. So they created this whole system, and it blew my mind because it was just so good. And it made Mega Man into its a new identity and allowed to refreshen it to be able to be played. But I ran back through the very original game to see if I still loved it as much as I did.
Mega Man 1?
No, Battle Network 1.
Oh, Battle Network 1. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I ran through it again to see if I loved it just as much as I did the first time. And yes, I did. It's so fun and silly and weird. But there's just so many weird points in the game, like with character interactions. There's a lot of callbacks to some of the old Robot Masters and new forms, and I love how challenging the game can be if you go to certain areas.
You know, some of those Mega Man robot bosses made no sense whatsoever.
Oh, come on.
I'm not even going to talk about it because Brian David Gilbert did a very, very good video on YouTube about the Mega Man bosses when he did his Unraveled series, which he sadly no longer does. But some of those robots are just, they should have never been made.
Yeah, no, like their practical use that they were supposedly used for were stupid and didn't make sense.
Yeah.
But they had some of the best designs.
We'll agree to disagree on some of that stuff.
I loved all the designs. Give me one that had a bad design. One that you know of that had a bad design.
Top Man.
Top Man was okay. Top Man was awesome looking. He was his aesthetic was awesome looking.
What was his purpose?
I don't know what his purpose was for. Like there was no reasonable purpose behind Top Man, but he looked awesome. That's where I was like, all the designs were awesome. What they were for, like Cutman, Cutman, with his scissors of doom.
Someone was like, I need a pair of scissors like 10 feet tall.
And then one game I can tell you that we both played and recently was RE8.
Resident Evil 8. Yeah, Village. For those key. So it's technically Resident Evil Village. It is not RE8. I want to be very clear.
Everyone's listing it as RE8.
I understand that because the VILL, they kind of like
turn into the 8. They flash it out and turn to yes.
Turn into
the
8.
Roman numeral 8.
Resident Evil 8 was fantastic.
Oh.
I enjoyed Resident Evil 7, even though I don't really like those style of survivor horror games that much. Like, I played Outlast. So, to explain a bit, Resident Evil 7 was a reimagining of the Resident Evil game series, which had previously been kind of like funky action games
with horror elements
and terrible stories most of the time.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Resident Evil 7, they went back and they were like, hey, let's make a survival horror game first person, and let's add elements of like actual survival horror where you're running away from enemies, you gotta hide, they're gonna come for you,
you have
can't
to
kill them.
Manage your equipment a lot better.
Yeah, you have like 3 bullets and there's like 6 enemies. What do you do? That Resident Evil 7 was great. The boss fights were terrible.
Yeah.
No, there were no good boss fights in that game.
Yeah, there was. There was one, and that was in the DLC.
Okay, I didn't play the DLC.
Oh, you never played DLC?
No,
you need to go play the Gator Man DLC.
Okay, all right, that sounds good. Is it Florida based?
No,
okay.
It's Jack, one of the main antagonists is Jack's brother. That's who you play as.
Oh, okay.
And it's really
no spoilers.
There's no spoilers,
okay.
But the whole concept is he's one of those Louisiana swamp man gator guys who hang around and was part of the military at one point, and he's...
You know what? I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall at Capcom's like design studio.
Oh, I just want to see
when they were like, okay, how does Louisiana Man function?
Yeah, and the whole thing is like, it's all hand to hand with him.
Oh, is it?
And you eat bugs and stuff instead of like food and stuff to gain health. It's really just off. It's really such a hard departure.
Okay,
and it cracks me up.
But going to Resident Evil 8, they actually eschewed a lot of the survival horror aspects for kind of a closer to almost an action shooter.
Yes.
And it works.
Yes.
It does work.
Because it never got rid of its creepy elements.
It's true.
Because what they did was when they expanded it to more of a open world village setting, they did not...
Wait, there's a village in there?
Ha ha ha. They didn't skimp on the terrifying factors. The aesthetics, the noises, the sound effects, the feel.
They did a great job with every piece of environmental art and sound design. Like you do get guns and ammo and you are ready to roll, but it's still terrifying simply because they did such a good job designing.
And with the fact that they were using so much of their stuff based off old horror franchises.
Yeah, it was.
They touched upon almost all of them. The Wolfman, Dracula.
These are not spoilers. They occur
The creature from the Black Lagoon.
the first 15 minutes.
Yeah, like they touch on every horror trope.
It was
in
it's
a
fairy tales.
Classic. Every horror classic in a functional way.
It's kind of like horror fairy tales.
Yeah,
all
and
coalescing together.
it has created one of the most popular Resident Evil characters in
You're talking about the
Lady Demetress.
Lady Demetress is Lady Demetress is actually not in the game that long
but she's still such a great character, and the scenes that she has are just, they didn't do enough with her.
This is some slight spoilers for people. If you don't want to hear it, wait about a couple minutes, just like 3 minutes,
maybe.
But Lady Demetress is in the game for approximately 1 to 2 hours. She functions as if you've ever played Resident Evil 2 or 3, she functions as that nemesis character.
Yes,
hunting you through her castle, along with her daughters. She is great for a variety of reasons. She's very well designed as a character. The voice actress is wonderful.
Yeah, she was so about her role,
and she is creepy. Like you look at her in screenshots and you're like, okay, she's a
10-foot tall vampire woman.
Yeah.
That has claws for hands.
Yeah, the claws really get you because when she's coming for you,
she has normal hands, and then all of a sudden she just
hands.
grows giant blades out of her fingers and then takes your face off.
Now, keep in mind, she is a Nemesis style character, so she walks at a pace that can be described as leisurely. But that's the point. She's not trying to rush and hunt you down. She can sprint, but all you got to do is like duck behind a vase.
Yeah. As far as like you said, the voice actress, she was so into it. She loved the role. She's been so great on all the media that everyone's trying to hit her up and her fans. She did
great. She did one.
She's so about her role that she has read such silly tweets for people. Like she had people tweet her stuff that she wants her to say.
She has to have a cameo account.
Oh, I have no idea.
She probably does.
I assume.
You know what? I would be shocked. They're making DLC for the game.
Yes,
they've already said that. Some of it's free, some of it's going to be paid.
And I already have my money for that.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say I would be shocked if no piece of that DLC touched on Lady D, simply because she's too popular of a character.
I feel like we're gonna have some, not a whole lot. It'll be like a short one. Like
she's too popular of a character. Everybody loved her design, even though, like I said, she's only in the game for the first like 2 hours.
Yeah, 2 maybe 3.
Then it's just gone, done.
Yeah, and like I said, and how they designed her was so great. She had such a regal personality that she showed control and confidence who she was, and that she could talk down to people. And she had the control of like.
I was a big fan of this 10-foot tall vampire.
Yes, so much so when they announced a lot of the overseas game stores would have giant cardboard cutouts, life-size versions.
Seriously, don't.
I looked in to see if I could buy one.
Into it, dear listener. He did not get one.
No, because I couldn't find one for sale.
It's for the best.
No, it's not.
Absolutely for the.
But
best.
the character, I fell in love with that character. I also liked her sister.
Her sister.
Yeah.
Which one's her sister?
Bio Valente?
Oh, I can't pronounce it. Yeah.
Bio
House...
Valente?
What is it?
It's
Bienvento?
Yeah, something.
Remember. Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
that was also really good.
Yeah. That was really well designed because that was a big callback to a lot of previous Resident Evils. It felt more like welcome to Horrorville.
Yeah.
Than let's shoot some stuff.
Yeah. And then
actually that was a big part of Resident Evil 8 is each individual section, and the game is broken up into a hub world, and then you go to see the 4 lords. And each individual section is kind of a callback to a different Resident Evil.
Yes.
The house, however you say it, is more like Resident Evil 7.
Yes.
The castle is more like 2.
2.
What would you say Moreau is?
Monroe was...
Moreau. It's Moreau.
I thought it was Monroe.
No, it's a homage to Dr. Moreau.
Okay.
The island of Dr. Moreau.
His was more akin to like parts of 4.
Yeah, I was gonna say 4.
4
was the one
and
that,
5 where you had those parts where where you had to be really careful and something was going to instantly kill you.
And Heisenberg's Factory, that one is... I don't really know
that one's
that
weird.
That one's more just 8. That one's just
8. Yeah, that was its own thing. Like, it had points of
it
like...
honestly reminded me kind of a Wolfenstein game.
Yeah.
It really did.
It did. Oh, and then the Duke. I love the Duke. The Duke was great.
I appreciate they just never bothered to explain anything about it.
Yeah, I know. And that's
like that.
I think that's what makes these characters so more appealing, because they're not explaining too much.
There's a time and place to be vague.
Yes.
And there's a time and place to explain some things.
And this is
knowing how to apply that is a big deal.
And with how Capcom runs things, they're usually not good at that. They usually they usually just really bad exposition. They really do bad with characters. Yeah. And this is the first time that they did characters that weren't overbearing. They were very subtle. They had...
Kyle.
What?
10-foot tall vampire woman is
yes.
subtle.
Yes, it is.
No.
Yes, it was.
I've got to disagree on that.
Yeah, you can disagree all you want, but it wasn't like overtly over top, let's say, like Resident Evil 5 and 6.
Okay.
Yeah, where Chris Redfield, you know.
One thing about Chris Redfield is I really need to know who his plastic surgeon is, because he changes every single day.
Yeah, and I've never seen a man go from... Like, he was jacked in 4. Or no, 5. 5 he was, like, huge.
So 5 he discovered steroids.
Yes.
It's very clear that at some point somebody was like, hey, Chris, check
this out.
Yeah.
Because 1, he was skinny as a rail.
Yes.
He was just some podunk guy.
Yeah.
Then he got reintroduced in Code Veronica.
I never played Code Veronica.
Oh, they're remaking that.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm all about it. Code Veronica, he was slightly more like a military guy, but he was still skinny as a rail. Yeah. Like, you were lucky if he could, pick up 25 pounds. Then they were like, we're bringing it back in 5, where he decided to just roid himself out.
His biceps were gigantic.
And that's why he punched that boulder.
Like, it was an absurd game to begin with, but boy, did Chris Redfield really... He discovered
he was
the gym.
Silly. Yeah, he was silly. He was silly huge.
He was like prime
And then
time Arnold.
6, he was super silly huge. 2...
I never played 6.
6 was... Ooh, it was bad.
I heard it was...
Ew.
There was a reason it was $5 like a month after it came out.
It was bad. I bought it on release at $60.
You poor fool.
Oh,
Poor.
And this is... But their character development is so bad sometimes, and everyone's very cartoony in their ways.
That's why 7 happened.
Yeah.
6 was
8,
so bad.
And then 8, none of them were cartoony.
I mean, that is correct. It depends on your definition of cartoon, but none of them were overtly ridiculous.
Yes.
They were all pretty exaggerated.
Yes.
But none of them really... You sat there and you were like, all right, I'm in this world. I'm in this village. None of them felt out of place. It didn't feel like a bad anime.
No. The only 2 things that I felt were wonky with that game were 8 were the really hard switch about 3/4, like the last half hour.
All right, yeah. So these are some more spoilers.
Yeah.
This has been kind of a spoiler review. But yeah, there's a part where it goes from like survival horror shooter to
Call of Duty.
This is Call of Duty
with werewolves.
Yeah, I think they've already had that though. So this is just Call of Duty again with werewolves, made by Capcom.
Yeah, made by Capcom.
Yeah, there is a huge switch. Like, yeah, about 3/4 of the way through the game where you're just like, all right, it's time.
Yeah,
and I mean, it's justified. It's justified in the game, and it feels like that's the natural progression.
Yeah,
but if you're not expecting it, it can be jarring.
And right now, even though I've let some things go that may be spoilers, maybe a little spoilerly, but it doesn't detract from the game at all. No, it actually just, I feel, is a way to make you want to play it if you haven't played it.
It's a very good game. It's fantastic. You can get it pretty cheap these days. I see it on, if you're on PC, I see it on Steam sales for like $30. You can get it on disc for 20, I think.
Yeah,
20 bucks.
it's not hard.
No, it's very good. It came out last May.
Yes.
And
For my birthday. I got it for my birthday.
I thought it was wonderful. I actually got it right after Kyle finished it, and it took me about, Kyle, like 8 months?
Oh my God. Just because you don't play consistently. That's what cracks me up. You finish a bunch of stuff, it just takes you forever to play it.
So, yeah, it takes me forever to start. When I start, I finish it. So it takes me a while to push the boulder off the mountain. But then the boulder makes it to the bottom of the mountain.
See, my thing is the opposite. I start it, and then I get to the tip of the top of the mountain, and then I go, okay, I'll be back to this later.
The boulder just rolls all the way back.
Yeah. So, yes. And also Alan Wake. I also finished Alan Wake this year. So I finished...
And I finished Alan Wake, too.
Yes, you did, because you borrowed it off me.
Now, this is about the 4th time I've finished Alan Wake.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah. Alan Wake is a fantastic game that I honestly could spend, 5 hours just talking about it in and of itself.
And we might talk about that next time.
Okay.
I right now, we just talked about some random stuff. Started the first episode. This is the very first episode of the Alpha Nerd podcast and radio show on WXPI Radio, Community Radio Williamsport, 88.5. We're almost out of time, so I think we're just going to rant a little bit more and then switch off with Resident Evil 8. So, do we have actually any information about what we're getting? I saw
DLC.
Yeah, for DLC.
Oh, no. They just said there was some free and some paid.
Yeah, okay.
That's all so
that's all I got, too. I feel like we're going to get something...
It was too popular. It sold so many copies.
Yeah,
it'd be,
instantly.
It'd be absurd. That
it was up for Game of the Year.
Look at Resident Evil 7. They released, 3 paid DLCs for that?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're going to release
a lot. I feel like we're going to get something with Lady D. Something small.
Hands down. Yeah.
Something with... more of the character development after the game. Not much.
We're not going to spoil anything there. But there is some opportunity after the game for some DLC.
Let's see. And I think we're going to get another silly one like we did, where it was just like a little in-betweeny silly thing.
If it was just another Louisiana man.
Yeah. Oh my God.
No, literally.
So good. So good.
He just stumbles into the village. Just stumbles right in.
Yeah. So funny.
But no, that was a fantastic game, and I'm really looking forward to it. I'm actually currently playing Guardians of the Galaxy, and I hope when I return to the show in the future, if you have me again.
I plan on it. You're my video game guy.
Well, thank you.
I
appreciate that. That was just to bait you out saying that.
Yeah, you're my video game guy. You're the person I talk with most about video games. That's why I asked you to be on here.
Well, thank you.
Just like
I'm very honored.
In 2 weeks when I do my media, movies, shows, and that, I have Greg for that because that's who I talk to a lot about that.
Spoilers.
Also,
Spoilers.
Dan.
Nobody knows about Greg yet.
Yeah, well, they're gonna know. They will know. Next week is gonna be based on tabletop gaming, primarily and almost solely Magic the Gathering, which is a game I play quite frequently, all the time, to the point where my fiance wants to kill me. My guest on there is going to be Brian Koval, who is a professional Magic player. He is I think this is the very first year in the last 5 to 6 years he did not top 4 the Eternal Weekend. And he's going to be talking to me about everything that's going to happen this weekend because a gaming company called Star City Games, who runs a lot of Magic events, is having a nice, huge convention this weekend, which I'll be attending and playing.
Kyle,
And
would you call that convention a gathering?
Yes.
Okay.
Of the Magic sort.
Okay,
yes.
yeah.
So I'm going to be going that, and then he's going to be talking with me about the new sets and our experiences, which I'm assuming he's going to do a lot better than me because he is just a great player. He's one of my good friends. A lot of my buddies are geeking out about getting to meet him, which I understand for them because he's a high-end famous Magic player. I'm not, and I've known him since I started. But that will all be next week and in the future. And I'd like to thank you all for listening to the show. Have a good night.